Getting a book out, whether I have to stand or I actually get a seat, I just get a book out and read. And what I like about it is because I don't have my phone in hand, I'm not paying attention to the time. And even music, generally speaking, you know how long music is, right? How many tracks or an album. If people still do that, yeah, I listen to albums. I don't listen to I don't shuffle tracks, or I'll actually put an album and listen to it. So I know, I don't know why I like doing that. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into that. I mean, that's a whole other discussion we could talk about. I mean, coming from the musical background, having studied music, you know that there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And not that it's a nod to that effort. I just like knowing the whole story. And that's part of it, like the order they chose to play the music in.
Do you feel like they're telling... I feel like the struggle for me is that when I try to listen to a whole album, I generally only listen to the whole album on the first listen, you know? And it's rare for me to find an album that I feel is a complete work to the point where I want to listen to the entirety, the album in its entirety.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could really get to it, I probably would just take parts of songs.
Hey man, maybe that's where we're headed in the future.
It's gotta be,
right? Not even a full track, like
just straight to it. Just get right to what you want.
Can you imagine on the radio? They don't even play full songs anymore. They just hit the chorus of a song and just go to the.
But that's essentially what mixes are, right? With DJs, they don't play the whole song.
Right.
If a DJ's doing a set,
right?
I mean, he uses the elements and the parts to tell his story, his or her story. But it's not the whole song. They don't play the whole song. And sometimes it's just elements of the song, you know? It'll be a different instrumental with the acapella from another song. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that that's where we're going. I mean, dance music is huge, man. It's huge.
Yeah, you know, listening is I mean, we're going down this rabbit hole of listening to music. It's a whole... it's a whole thing, like how you listen. I think you and I probably listen to music a lot differently from each other, but you and I probably also listen to music in a similar way as opposed to somebody that didn't study music seriously for a long time. And we have different concepts of what we like. I mean, everybody has different tastes, but I think at the end of the day, most people know good music when they hear it, whether they like it or not.
It's okay.
Most.
Now, that term that you just dropped is a very interesting term that I've come to not believe in at all. The notion of good music, because music is functional. It's relational. It has a connection. So if something that has no value to me connects to somebody and moves them, is that good music? It's not about... I feel like what we call good music is good production, maybe good technique, good arrangement, good quality. You know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily make good music, because what we consider good might mean nothing to someone living in India or someone living in China or somebody from the Caribbean. You know, there's different things that matter to different people. So it's like this book I read when I was taking musicology in graduate school, talking about what makes a genius. Mm-hmm. Is it their ability, or is it how society values their ability? That's where is it? You know, because if someone is a genius violin player, mm-hmm. but then they go into a steel mine to work, or they go into a boxing ring, or they play on a football field, their genius means nothing. They have nothing to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that doesn't take away their ability. I mean, you're right. How you define something means everything.
Right.
As far as in context, the context of the definition means everything. So a genius mathematician could be an awful chef. Right. I don't know that that's a good example, but you know what I'm trying to say. I get what you're saying about like the term good music, but I guess what I'm saying, I think around the world, Who's the biggest artist in your lifetime?
For me, I see. I don't know because I live I live my life growing up with R&B and rap stars.
So you don't think you can name a person that you think globally is considered the biggest
I would
musical
say
artist?
I would say someone like Drake or Beyonce. But again, the reason why I say I don't know is because I thought that those artists were bigger than what they really were.
Hmm.
And in reality, someone like Carrie Underwood or Taylor Swift have a much bigger base than these people.
Globally, you think?
Globally, yeah.
That surprised me. That would surprise me if that were true.
Are you saying like artists like the people who created Despacito?
I'm saying like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, but okay, so I'm thinking living.
Yeah, and so the point I'm trying to get is Michael Jackson, globally, I think we could agree, is one of the biggest, most influential, most popular music artists we've seen in our lifetime.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And I think his music was globally loved. And why is that? Was he the greatest singer?
No.
Was he the greatest dancer?
Arguably.
No. Come on.
Arguably.
No,
Come
he's
on.
not the greatest dancer. Like he could do moves. He was a showman. He could do these moves, but they weren't like they weren't. I bet if you were to talk to somebody that is a serious dancer, they'd be like, Michael Jackson couldn't dance.
So okay, the way you feel about that, I'm assuming the way I'm understanding is similar to LeBron James and Michael Jordan versus Steph Curry.
No, I think it's more. I would relate it more to a classical saxophonist and a jazz, like saying like the jazz saxophonist isn't as good as I am.
But you're saying that Michael Jackson wasn't arguably one of the best dancers. Because if you put him next to someone who just did dancing, he wouldn't.
I guess I'm judging like his actual his technical ability as a dancer. Like he wasn't one of the greatest dancers. If you look at it in the context of what it means to be a dancer, if you look at him, put him in the context of what it means to be a singer, put him in the context of what it means to be an entertainer. And now entertainment, I think, far and beyond.
But I'm just looking at his dancing. I'm not taking it as a total package. I'm just looking at his dancing, and I feel like, especially if we're considering how people around the world consider that person, I would say that if you ask, I don't know, let's say something million people, who was the best dancer, you would get his name before anybody in like the now. Like if I talked to my friend Moy, who was a dancer, and she might say someone like Les Twins, who I remember was one of her favorite groups.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
They were in like a Beyonce video. They've been in some commercials too. They're dope. They're hip hop dancers, free form, and it's insane. You should check it out. But at the same time, I just feel like Michael. It's like also another person, James Brown. You know, like I think there's something to say about changing the game. Like if your dancing has an influence,
But it's a package deal, is what I think. Is like, and that's why I said entertainer. I think these guys were entertainers. They were a package deal. Like James Brown didn't have. If we're talking in technical terms, these guys weren't the greatest singers, but they had a unique voice. They had a very, very distinct quality to how they sang, the kind of voice that they have, even if it wasn't the greatest. And this is a funny example. So Britney Spears, is she a good singer?
she's a terrible singer.
Terrible singer, but she had this like breathy quality that it was like she's not very good, but it's identifiable. People want things that they can latch onto. And so Michael Jackson had a very distinct style of dance. If you watch a concert, how much dancing is he actually doing? He's just kind of like strutting to one side of the stage, and then we'll do this little move, and then struts to the other while he's singing and does this little move. Maybe some choreographed things, but it's not like a big dance routine. Now that started a new trend with the Britney Spears, the NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, where those guys were a singing group slash dancing group slash entertaining group. So I mean, if you have to look at the whole, you can't look at an individual thing, and that's I'm pinpointing these individual things and saying, like, as a dancer, like, there are other options where you look at, like, that's a good dancer, where you would think of so and so, and I can't say because I don't really know dancing, but I would imagine that there are dancers that there's probably 50 dancers you would name before Michael Jackson if you knew what you were talking about.
But see, okay, again, that's that's like that's two different conversations. Also, it's like, are you talking about within the dance community, and then if you're talking about the dance community, are you talking about modern dance? Are you talking about hip hop? Are you talking about classical dance? Each one of those people are going to give you a different answer, and so
Right.
if we're talking about the general public, then I think that's one thing. You're going to get one thing from them. And that's who I was thinking of initially, because that's how I feel like how we started. Of course, if you talk to the dance community, they're probably not gonna, the same as the jazz community has no love for Kenny G or Najee or what's another guy, Boney James. But the general public, they esteem these guys.
That's right.
And so I still feel pretty strong that if you talk to an average person about dancing, because they don't know about the dancers within the dance community, because I believe that's a very small community.
Okay.
So